Hey everybody, I'm Alan with Bricks and Blocks Gaming, and in this video for the game of Stargrave, I'll be playing the 6th battle for my campaign, going through the Last Prospector supplement, and this will be the Dragon's Den scenario. Stargrave is a sci-fi skirmishing wargame written by Joseph A. McCullough and published by Osprey Games, and the Last Prospector is the author's second full-length supplement for the game. I'll show you the state of my crews, explain the bricks and blocks of the Dragon Den scenario, then I'll get to the battle. Captain Errooo is now level 22, carrying his new rapid fire of +1 damage, his flamethrower, a knife, and he's wearing heavy armor. And his first mate, Sergeant Ruga, is now level 5, and is wearing his combat armor and swift suit, increasing his move by +1, and carrying picks and a deck. The mercenary crew of the Iron Golem still consists of their burner, their bruiser, their striker, their pathfinder with a shotgun, their codebreaker with a shotgun and jet boots, their trooper with a carbine and new grapple gun, and their robots, the sentry with a shotgun, a chiseler fitted with a force shield bracelet, and their new Repairbot, joining them because of the Repairbot charging station they added to their ship. Captain Smada is level 17, wearing heavy armor and carrying his hand weapon, picks, a deck, a medkit, and a pistol. His first mate Blinky is level 7 now, and is carrying his flamethrower, knife, picks, and his micro-transporter to make bait and switch more difficult to resist, and he's wearing heavy armor. The crime gang of the Negator consists of a sentry and a pathfinder, both with shotguns, their robot striker, a bruiser, their medic, the Shangri-La that's joined them due to adding some cages to their ship, a runner, and their sniper and engineer, both with carbines. After retrieving some rare fruit the crew needed to pay for some information, the crew of the Iron Golem is now traveling to another area of the jungle planet of Hanera, this time to a drilling site where a rare ore was being looked for. The base was abandoned about 3 years prior due to sightings of very large, very dangerous reptile creatures that had started emerging from the drilled holes. If the crews can access the computer systems at the base, they might be able to find out what was being drilled for, which could give them their next clue in tracking down the Last Prospector. The tabletop setup calls for 3 holes that are 2 inches in diameter to be placed across the midline of the table, with line of sight from one hole to the next being blocked, and a data loot placed next to each hole. Then 2 physical loot tokens are placed each 6 inches from the center, running perpendicular to the midline. The foliage on the battlefield is supposed to be really thick, which gives some bonuses when defending against shooting attacks that are more than 6 inches away. But since I just used that mechanic in the last battle, and I have this battlefield set up more open, I've decided not to use that rule in this game. Whenever players roll a 1 through 6 on their initiative, they place a harvest tick anywhere on the table that's at least 1 inch away from any crew members. These are supposed to be short-limbed insects about the size of a person's head, but I'm using spiders to represent them. They're slow and have low health, but high armor due to their exoskeletons, and they inflict poison damage. Starting in the creature phase of turn 2, there's a chance a centaur will appear at one of the holes. These are large reptilian creatures that are supposed to have 12 pairs of short legs, but I'm using a Lego Ninjago dragon that's missing its wings and a few links of its neck and tail so that it's not too big. It's got a lot of health, a crazy high fight value, it's an expert climber, and can spit venomous mucus. And looking at my board, it's a bit less cluttered than usual, so it's not too awkward moving the thing around. And if it's not on the board by turn 4, it automatically shows up that creature phase, and only one will ever appear. It can walk over the holes without a problem, but crew members cannot, and if a crew member is pushed into one of the holes, they have to succeed on a move roll of 12 or else be reduced to 0 health and require a survival roll at the end of the game. There's normally a landing fee the crews have to pay, but since they played the Devil's Fruit Bowl right before this, the fee is waived. And both teams have paid 40 credits to receive a sentry as a guide in addition to their full team. And both the sentries will be carrying shotguns. One of the teams is supposed to randomly get commissioned to hunt the centaur, I've decided just to give that to Smada's team as it fits better narratively, and gives their team a +1 shoot against the Centaur, while Errooo's team is going after the central data loot. Both of these goals will grant some bonuses after the battle. There is an option for random encounters, but I think the crews will have their hands full with the Centaur and harvest ticks that will inevitably be swarming the table. Looking at the deployments for Captain Errooo's team over here, they have their new Repairbot next to their Pathfinder. Here's their Bruiser, their Sentry. Here is their Striker, their Sentry Guide, Errooo himself, the Burner, the Chiseler, the Codebreaker, First Mate Sergeant Ruga, and their Trooper. Sergeant Ruga failed his Armoury power, and so did Errooo, so they'll have to pay 50 credits once again for his combat armor. And Errooo also failed Toxic Secretion and Restructure Body, so no out-of-game powers for them. And over to Captain Smada's side, here they have their Sentry and their Bruiser. Here is their Sentry Guide next to their Runner, their Sniper, their Shangri-La Monkey, the Pathfinder, the Striker, Captain Smada, First Mate Blinky next to their Engineer and their Medic. And to start out the battle, Smada has won the initiative with a 12 against 16. He is going to activate by himself. He'll start out by using the Inspiring Power on the Pathfinder. He needs a 9. He rolled a 7, so he'll exert for 2, taking 2 damage. And then he'll move and power move over here, and he's kind of climbing up the side of that building there. Then over to Errooo's turn. He is going to activate with this Burner in front of him. It'll be a group activation. He'll have the Burner run 5 inches up to there, and then Errooo will follow behind, and then he will use his Fling power, needing a 7. He rolls an 18. He takes 1 point of strain, and that will fling this guy up here. Then the Burner will take his second action to just kind of move to where he can have some good cover here, but still see to shoot his flamethrower off that direction. And then Errooo will do a power move 3 inches this way, right up behind this tree just for some light cover. And then over to First Mate Blinky's turn. He is going to activate with their Engineer and the Medic. He's going to attempt to transport the Engineer. He needs a 13 but only rolled a 10. He'll just let that fail, and then he will power move and move down here. And then the Engineer and Medic will both double move through here into this building. So the Medic ran 10.5 inches there, and the Engineer 9 inches to right there. Then over to Sergeant Ruga's turn. He is going to activate by himself. He can move 7 inches over this way, then power move another 3 inches over here. He's going to try to use the Wall of Force power to create a wall right here. He needed a 14, but only got a 6, so he failed his new power there. For Captain Smada's soldier phase, they'll start out by having their Pathfinder double move a total of 10.5 inches down here, getting within 3 inches of First Mate Blinky. Their Striker is going to move 10.5 inches down here, hugging that wall for some cover. Their Shangri-La is going to come over here, and they're expert climbers, so he can climb this with no problem and end up right up in front of Captain Smada there. Then their Sniper is going to just run over here so that he's within 3 inches in line of sight of Captain Smada. Their Runner can move 10.5 inches over here, climbing this ladder at normal movement, and can get right over to here. And then this Guide is going to move over here. He can go 7.5 inches right over to here. And then the Sentry and Bruiser are both going to double move inside this ruined building here, with the Bruiser double moving 9 inches up there, and the Sentry moving 7.5 inches right to the middle of that building. Over to Errooo's side of the table, the Pathfinder is going to double move 10.5 inches up here by that stony tree. This Bruiser is going to run 9 inches into here. This Sentry is going to run 7.5 inches over to here. And their little Repairbot is going to move up right behind him. And moving a little further down the table, this trooper is going to run up against the side of this building and then use his grapple gun. He has to make a shoot action with a target number of 10, but with his +3 only got a total of 7, so he is stuck right there. Then this Codebreaker is going to activate his jet pack and jet boots. He's actually going to come around this way. He can go a total of 13.5 inches. He'll come right around to there. There's Striker, will double move 10.5 inches up here. This Guide will move 7.5 inches over here behind Errooo. And then their Chiseler robot is going to come over here, 9 inches, climb to the top of this, and activate his Force Shield Generator, which will give him +1 fight and armor against shooting attacks. And he can activate that as a free action. For the creature phase, the Centaur can't enter the board till at least turn 2, and no harvest ticks entered on the first round's initiative. And so going to turn 2, once again, no harvest ticks arrive, with a 15 to a 17, with Smada winning the initiative. He's going to choose not to move. He's just going to use the Inspiring Power on the Shangri-La, needing a 9. He gets a 9, so that Shangri-La is now powered up to +3 fight. And then going over to Captain Errooo, he's going to activate with this Striker. He's going to have the Striker just do a double move over here. She has to kind of climb over one of her teammates over to here. She's just going to try to block this space to keep any enemies from getting within 1 inch of this data loot. Then Errooo is going to try to do Restructure Body on himself, needing a 10. He only rolls a 5, so that will fail. He wants to get it so that he can't be wounded like he was last game. And he's just going to move over to here, so he's ready for wherever he needs to go next round. Then over to Blinky's turn. He is going to activate with this Pathfinder. He's going to start out by moving and then power moving into contact with this data loot token, and he is going to attempt the Smash and Grab power. He needs an 11 and gets a 17, so that will pop up right next to him. He can't pick it up automatically, but at least it goes right there. And with Smash and Grab active, that means any physical loot tokens he happens to be carrying won't slow him down. Then over here to this Pathfinder, he's going to take a +3 shot at this Striker. She's got light cover there against that building, so it's a +3 shot. Strikers get a +1 against shooting attacks, so she has a +8, and she gets a total of 24, and the Pathfinder rolled a 1, which means his gun is jammed. So he's just going to run up here into combat with the Striker, and then we'll go to Sergeant Ruga's turn. He's going to try Wall of Force once again, needing a 14. He gets a 14. So we've got a transparent Wall of Force that I designed using the Lego Pick-a-Brick website. And that's going to go right here. I don't know if I can place it between figures that are in combat, so they'll just place it here. Something like that. That does trap the Pathfinder over here, but Errooo's team has him outnumbered. And then Ruga is going to power move and move over here into combat to support the Striker. And then to Captain Smada's soldier phase, they'll start with having their Guide run over here by this tree. Now with these walls of force, they can be destroyed if a figure can make a shooting action. It's not a shooting attack, so I don't believe that they get a modifier for their shoot value. It says they make a shooting action, and on a 19 or 20, and they make a roll, and the wall is destroyed. So he came out here and made his shooting action. He rolled a 19, which means as soon as this wall went up, it's immediately destroyed, opening things up for Smada's troops to flood in here, which this Shangri-La will do. It can move 3 inches up here, 3 inches down, then 3 inches over into contact with Ruga on a double move. And then their Striker is going to move into combat. So he is right there, and he can attack with the support of the Shangri-La. That puts him up to a +7 against +5, and he wins with a total of 19 against 8. So that's -2 armor and +1 damage, dealing a total of 9 damage, putting Ruga down to 5 health remaining. And then over here to their medic, he is going to run 7 inches over here. He can just barely get to where he can see around this corner, where he can see this Codebreaker, and he'll take a +2 hasty shot, which bumps the Codebreaker up to a +4, but he only gets a 16 against 18, which means he takes 8 points of damage and is stunned. And then in here, their engineer is going to come out, and he will pick up this loot token that Blinky just unlocked here. And speaking of loot tokens, up here, this runner with his +1 will is going to come over here and try to unlock this, but he rolls just an 8 for a total of 9, so that thing stays locked. Next, their sniper over here is going to run 9 inches over here by this corner, where he's got a clear view of anyone trying to unlock this data loot. And then over here into this building, the bruiser is going to run out, and on 9 inches can come down here onto this ledge where he's right out in the open, but he's within an inch of that data loot to prevent anybody from doing anything with that. And then the sentry in there, he's going to move out and double move over by this tree to maybe try to do something next turn. Moving to the soldiers of the Iron Golem, they'll have their robot sentry run out here and take a +2 hasty shot at this bruiser, who's boosted to +5 against that. But the bruiser gets only a total of 12 against 16. So with that shotgun, that deals 6 damage against the 11 armored bruiser. So that does stun him. And then this bruiser is going to run out there and attack the stunned bruiser. And moving into combat with a stunned figure will unstun them, but give them -2 fight, so it's a +3 against +1. But the previously stunned bruiser with the high ground there ends up winning with a total of 17 against 10, so that deals 6 points of damage to him. He was really hoping to push him down into that pit, but no luck there. And the bruisers will stay in combat. Then their Pathfinder is going to run over here, where he can take a clear shot at this sentry. It's a +3 hasty shot, so +4 to defend, and the defender got a total of 23 against 14, so no luck on that. And then to finish up these bumbling soldiers over here, this Repairbot is just going to run up here on a double move. And then their guide over here is going to run out here 5 inches. Well, he'll go 7.5, which will put him over here at this data loot. And speaking of loot, this chiseler over here will run over to this physical loot and try to open it with a +7. Rolling a natural 20, he easily gets that, and he'll pick that up as a free action. Then this trooper, who failed to climb this wall last turn, will instead run over here and take a hasty shot against that medic. The medic has light cover, giving him a total of +5 against +3, but the trooper wins with a total of 14 against 9, dealing 4 damage and stunning that medic. And then this stunned Codebreaker will stand up and use his one action just to come into contact with this loot. And then their burner is going to run out here and fire his flamethrower this direction at the sniper. It's a +2, but it's hasty, and the sniper has light cover. The sniper gets a total of 19 against 15, so no damage is dealt there. At the start of the creature phase on turn 2, die is rolled, and on a 15+, the Centaur appears at a random hole. However, only a 5 was rolled, so he's going to keep hiding this round. So we'll go over to Captain Smata, who won the initiative once again with an 18-16, so still no harvest ticks. He's just going to come up here and use his action to attempt to open up this loot. He's got a +10 with his high will and his picks, and he gets a total of 15, barely opening it. And he is just going to go ahead and grab that physical loot. And then to Errooo's turn, he's going to attempt Adrenaline Surge on an 8 and gets a 20, so that is successful. He will then power move over here and use his extra action to fire his +1 damage rapid fire. he can target 2 figures within 2 inches of each other. So he'll target both Captain Smada and his soldier. It's a wide open shot here against this runner. It's a +6. It's a hasty shot, so that gives the runner a total of +2. But he gets just 5 against 17 with +1 damage, dealing a total of 9 damage to him, and stuns him. And then for Smada, he has light cover. It's hasty, but he's also encumbered, so he's got a total of +7 against the +6, and Errooo ends up winning with a total of 25 against 22, and with +1 damage, deals 15 damage to Smada. And that takes him down. We'll put him back up there, and then we'll go to Blinky's turn. He'll activate with this Engineer. He'll have the Engineer just double move off the board with this data loot, securing the first loot of the game. And then Blinky is going to run 5 inches over here and activate the transport power. He needs a 13 and gets a 14, and he'll let that move him up to here. Then he will power move into contact with this loot, hoping he doesn't get fried on his next turn. And then going to Sergeant Ruga's activation, he'll activate with this Striker and the Codebreaker. He'll start out with trying to fling this Pathfinder out of combat. He needs an 11 but only rolls a 6 and doesn't have enough health to exert for that, so he'll just sit there and not do anything. And then the Striker is going to attack. She's a +5 against the Inspired +4, but she gets just a 17 to 20, which means she takes 10 points of damage, putting her down to 4 health and wounded. Then the Codebreaker is going to see if he has any luck with his dice rolls. He gets a +8 to try to unlock that, but only gets a total of 12, needing a 14. So that stays locked. He's going to go ahead and run over here to try to keep all of these enemy figures occupied while somebody else tries to maybe get into that data loot. Moving to Captain Smada's soldier phase, they'll have this runner that's stunned and wounded up here stand up, climb down, and then just come over and get into combat with this Codebreaker. Then they'll have their sniper take a shot down here at this burner. The burner's got light cover, giving him a total of +4 against +4, and he defends that with an 18 against 14. And the sniper will choose to just wait there where he's got a good vantage point for next turn. Then this guide here behind this tree is going to fire his shotgun at the opposing guide. There's one piece of intervening terrain giving the defender +4 against +2, but the defender gets just 14 against 21, and there's +1 damage for being a shotgun. That deals 11 points of damage to this sentry, so that stuns and wounds him. And then the guide is going to run up here by this corner, which will give him some good cover and a vantage point for next turn. Then over here, this sentry is going to take a wide open shotgun shot at that Pathfinder. It's a +2 against +3, but he misses, getting just an 8 against 17. Then he will run over here to add support in combat against this Bruiser. And they'll have their Gamorrean Bruiser attack. That's a +5 against +3. But they end up getting a tie, both getting an 18. So they both take 7 points of damage, and they're both already down to 6. So these two swap fatal blows against each other. And then we'll move over to the middle of the board, where they'll have their Shangri-La attack the Codebreaker, hoping to win and shove him into this pit. The Inspired supported Shangri-La is a total of +5 against +3, but the Codebreaker wins with a 21 against 7, which deals 11 damage and wounds the monkey, leaving him at 1 health. He could shove the Shangri-La out of combat, but since the Shangri-La started his activation with 2 actions, he could just move back in, so they'll just stay there. Then we'll have the Striker attack Sergeant Ruga. It's a +5 against +5. No supports given there because everybody else is in combat. And Sergeant Ruga wins that with a total of 20 against 9, dealing 10 points of damage. The Striker is a robot, so he's not wounded. And kind of same thing, they'll end up just staying in combat there. Then they're going to have their Pathfinder try to attack Sergeant Ruga. Again, no support, but the Inspired Pathfinder is a +4 against +5 and rolls a total of 17 against 7. That deals 4 points of damage to Ruga, leaving him wounded with 1 health remaining. And then to finish up their soldier phase, they'll have this stunned medic down here stand up, and then he will fire his pistol back at this trooper that hit him last turn. It's a +2 shot. The trooper has a total of +6 with heavy cover. However, the shot hits its mark. We're getting a total of 20 against 11. So that ends up dealing 9 points of damage and stuns the trooper. However, we'll jump to Errooo's turn, where he'll just stand back up and fire back. +3 against +6 for the medic's heavy cover, but that shot ends up missing with a 6 against 9. And then they'll move up here to their Chiseler, carrying this physical loot. He'll just climb down the side of this building, going slow, carrying that physical loot. And then we'll go up front here. We'll have this Repairbot start out by coming over here. He's got a +0 will, but he's going to try to hack into this data loot token. Needing a 14, he rolls a natural 15, which unlocks this. And we'll put the loot right there in front of the little computer. And then this guide is going to stand up. He is wounded, so he's going to take a +0 shooting attack against this sentry, who's got a +3 defense. But the wounded guide wins with a 18 against a total of 9. With a shotgun, that deals 8 points of damage to him and stuns him. And then they're going to have this sentry robot here fire his shotgun. The enemy sentry is now at a +5 because he is stunned, and he gets a total of 20 against the robots, just 13 total. So that misses, but then the sentry here is going to run into combat with him, which will unstun him, but keep him occupied, so that this Pathfinder can run past him without getting forced into combat. He can get over to this loot on a single move of 7 inches, and then he will pick up that data token that is hidden down there. And then moving over here to the middle, this burner is going to come over here to this computer. He's got a +1 will. He's going to try to hack into that, but rolls just a 10 for a total of 11, so that stays locked. Over here, both the striker here is wounded, so she's not going to attack, but the Codebreaker is going to try to take down this runner so that he doesn't add any support. The Codebreaker is a +3 against -1 for the wounded runner, and the Codebreaker rolls a total of 13 against 2. He's got a knife that deals -1 damage, but with only 9 armor, that deals 3 points of damage to the runner, which is just enough to take him down. And at the end of turn 3, the Centaur will appear on the roll of a 9+, but only gets a 4+, so still no Centaur. And then for the initiative, Smata won again with a 15 against 9, and since neither of those were a 6 or less, there's still no ticks that appear either. Since Smata has fallen, we'll jump to Errooo's turn. He's got an active Adrenaline Surge, so he gets an extra action this turn. On 5 inches, he can get over here into contact with this data loot, and he's going to try to unlock that with his +3 will and rolls a natural 20. So the final loot is unlocked. We'll just drop that down there. And then for his final action, he's going to use his rapid fire of +1 damage to take a wide open shot down here at that sniper. He's a +6 against +4 because it is a hasty shot, and he gets a total of 17 against just 9, and with +3 total damage with that, ends up dealing 10 points of damage, which will stun and wound this sniper, leaving him with just 4 health remaining. And for the first mate phase, Blinky up here is going to use his action just simply to pick up this physical loot, and then he is going to just hop down here so that he's close enough to possibly help with something, but he's not quite sure if he really wants to get into this yet. And then Sergeant Ruga is going to activate with this burner and with the Codebreaker. He'll start out by trying to use coordinated fire on the burner. He wants to do something else, but he's down to 1 health, so he can't use either the Wall of Force or the Fling power, because those have strain of 1. So instead he is going to try coordinated fire but he rolls just a 2 with a -2 for being wounded, so that does nothing. Then the burner is going to activate. He'll just pick up this data loot, and he's going to run around here. He had to climb over Errooo to get over here, but he can get far enough to come around this corner. And then the Codebreaker is going to try to attack and take down this Shangri-La to try to weaken these forces. He has a +3 against just +1 for the wounded inspired Shangri-La, but the Shangri-La gets a total of 19 with +1 damage for having sharp teeth, and that deals 10 damage to the Codebreaker, who only had 6 health remaining. And now for the soldier phase for the crew of the Negator. They'll start out with having their striker attack Ruga. He's got support because of the monkey that now isn't fighting anybody, so he's got a +7 against Ruga's +3 for being wounded, and he rolls a total of 22 with +1 damage and reducing Ruga's armor by 2, which is more than enough to take down the 1 health remaining Ruga. And then the striker is going to run over here and engage Errooo in combat. And this Shangri-La is going to come over here to add some support. And then with that support, this Pathfinder will attack. He's a +6 with support against +3 for the wounded striker. And he gets a total of 17 against just 7. And so that ends up dealing 7 damage to her, which takes her down. And then the Pathfinder wants to run past here, but he's going to end up in base contact with Errooo, so instead he's going to come over this way 7 inches to try to stop this burner from exiting the table. Then they'll have their medic down here in this epic shootout. He will go ahead and fire +2 against the troopers, +6 for heavy cover, but the trooper gets a 17 against 4, so that misses. And then the medic is going to run over here to tie up this burner in combat. And then up towards the front of the table, they're going to have their guide here fire his shotgun at this Pathfinder to try to prevent him from escaping with that data loot. But he rolls with his +2 just a total of 12 against 16 for the Pathfinder's defense. So instead he's just going to run up here and move into combat with this Repairbot so it can't add support to anybody. And then they're going to have their sentry attack the robot sentry. It's a +3 against +3. And Smada's sentry ends up winning that with a total of 19 to 14, which deals 8 damage to this robot. He'll shove him out of combat. And then he is going to move over into contact with this Pathfinder to see if he can stop him. And then they're going to have their sniper over here. He's wounded and stunned, but he's going to stand up. And he's going to go ahead and fire into this melee. He's got a 50% chance of hitting his own guy, but his striker is pretty strong against shooting attacks, so he's going to give it a try, and he ends up randomly firing at his striker instead of Errooo. But his striker ends up defending with his +6 for a total of 21 against just 6 for the wounded sniper. And then back up front here for Erroo's soldier phase, they'll have this wounded guide move into combat with the sentry here. And then this robot is going to run over here to get into combat again with this sentry. And it wasn't a smart idea for him to run out here because with double support, this sentry attacks with a +7 against +3. He gets a total of 23 against 6. And that sentry is already down to 6 health, so the 12 damage is more than enough to take him down. And then this Pathfinder that's carrying this data loot will end up double moving off the board with his 10.5 inches. Then they're going to go ahead and have their Repairbot attack this guide. The Repairbots do have knives, so he's not unarmed. So a +0 against +3. He gets just an 8 total against 6, so he wins, but doesn't deal any damage. And he'll just stay into combat, so that guide can't shoot anybody with a shotgun next turn. And then back here, this trooper is going to charge into combat against this medic who is unarmed in hand-to-hand combat, and then attack with the support of the burner. So he's a +4 against +0, and he wins with a 13 against an 11. And with his knife, that deals 2 points of damage, bringing the medic down to 8. And then he will just stay in combat. And then over to the other side of this building, this loot hauling chiseler will just start moving closer to the edge. Can't quite get off the board on a double move though while he's slowed. And at the start of the creature phase on turn 4, if it's not already on the board, the Centaur will appear at one of these 3 holes, and it will to randomly show up at this one down here. And as it does, it can't see anybody where it's at, and so as it immediately activates, it will end up moving this way on a random roll, and from there it can see this combat, so it will move into contact with these guys. And then whether it's in combat or not, when it finishes its activation, the players do a roll-off, and the winner gets to place a flame template from its mouth. Smada's team ended up just barely winning that, and they're just going to place it just right here into this combat. And the way that works is it's not actually fire, but it's a sticky mucus, and anyone affected in that template ends up making a will roll with a target number of 20, and if they fail, they are poisoned. And with the +0, +1, and just +3, all 3 of those figures ended up failing that, so they are all 3 poisoned and reduced to 1 movement. And initiative for the next round goes to Errooo with a 15 against a 14, and still no harvest ticks show up. Erroo's going to choose to just try to take down this striker that only has 4 health remaining. He's a +5 against +5, but the striker ends up winning with a 22 against 13. And with the -2 armor reduction that strikers cause and the +1 damage, that's 14 points of damage, which is just enough to take down Captain Errooo. And since Sergeant Ruga is down, we'll move to Blinky. He is going to move out here 5 inches, not slowed because of the smash and grab he earlier used, and that will put him within line of sight of this burner, and so he will attempt the smash and grab power. He rolls a 9 needing a 12, so he'll exert for 3 and take 2 strain. Then the burner gets to resist that. He's got a +1 will, needing a 16 because of the micro transporter that Blinky is carrying. And the burner fails that with just a total of 10. So this gets moved up to 4 inches away, which will be right at the feet of this Pathfinder. Moving to the soldier phase, for the crew of the Iron Golem, they'll send this wounded guide over here into combat. And then their sentry is going to run over here and attack with double support. That puts him at a +7 against +3. And the sentry wins with a total of 22 against 20. And that deals 11 points of damage and wounds that guide. And then their Repairbot is going to attack. He's a +4 with double support against +1 for the now wounded guide. And he wins with a total of 16 against 15, and so that is 5 points of damage, 4 points because of the knife that this guy is carrying. Takes him down, then he's going to run 5 inches this way, staying out of view of that sniper. And then moving back here, this trooper is going to attack the medic. Since this Centaur is in combat with both of them, and it doesn't add support to either of them, but the burner, not being in combat with anybody else, will add support here. So the trooper's a +4 against +0, but gets just a total of 9 against 3. So that doesn't deal any damage, and he can't push out of combat because of that monster. So now the burner will attack. He's a +3 against +0. He wins with a 15 against 7, and with his knife deals 4 points of damage, leaving the medic at 4 points and wounded. And then the burner will push himself out of combat, but being covered in mucus from the Centaur, he has no more actions. And then over here, this chiseler will run off the board, securing this physical loot. Captain Smada's team really wanted to try to take down this Centaur, but it showed up so late that their forces are dwindling, and I think they're just going to try to steal this central loot here and get off the board. So this Pathfinder will pick this up, and then he will run over here by this tree. And then they'll have their sniper run over here, close enough that he can activate with Blinky next turn. they'll have their monkey climb over their striker to come over here into combat with this burner so that he can't shoot some flame down here. And then their striker is going to double move this way to kind of clog up this pathway so that Errooo's troops can't come around this flank. The medic, however, decides he wants to try to continue the team's quest to take down this Centaur, and also if he ends up falling, then that means there's more of a chance of this thing slowing down Errooo's forces. So the medic will attack with -2 for being unarmed and wounded against +8, and he easily loses, getting just a 10 against 22. And the thing deals +2 damage, so that's 14 points of damage, and that medic falls in combat. To Errooo's soldiers, the trooper will decide to just stay in combat there, just to delay the thing. And then their burner will go ahead and attack this Stringorilla. He's a +3 against +1 for the wounded inspired monkey. And the burner wins with a total of 21 against 12. So with his knife, that deals 10 damage. It only had 1 health remaining. He wants to run away, but he is slowed. He only gets 1 action because of that mucus that's covering him. And then over here to this side of the table, this Repairbot is going to double move into combat with this striker. And then this sentry robot is going to run over here and kind of take one last attempt to stop that Pathfinder down there from escaping with that data loot. He's got a +2 shoot against +4 defense due to hasty shot, and the shot misses with a 20 against a 21. And since it looks like they're probably going to escape with that loot, this guy decides he's had enough. He can move 5 inches over here on his single action. And then back here to the creature phase, the Centaur is going to go ahead and attack this trooper with a +8 against +2. And the Centaur gets a total of 24 against 10 with +2 damage, which is more than enough to take down the 5 health remaining trooper. And then the Centaur will move into combat with this burner. It would do another mucus blast. And Samada's team rolled to direct which direction it goes, so they're not going to let it blow off this way. And the burner's already covered in mucus, so he can't be slowed any further. Moving to the next round, Errooo's team has won the initiative with a 9 against a 3. And with that 3, finally a harvest tick shows up on the board. Samada's team can put that anywhere more than 1 inch away from a crew member, so they'll put it right here. So as soon as this sentry tries to move, it can snap into combat with him. And then they'll go ahead and have Blinky activate with their striker, their sniper, and their pathfinder. Blinky is going to have the sniper run around here 6 inches. And then the pathfinder is going to run past him, a total of 10.5 inches. And then Blinky is going to move 5 inches over here and attempt to transport the sniper. He needs a 13 but only rolls a 5, and he doesn't have enough health left to exert for that. So instead he's just going to power move over here so that he stays out of the line of sight of this thing spraying any mucus down there. Then they're going to have their striker go ahead and attack. He's a +5 against +0, and he wins with a total of 9 against 9. And he deals +1 damage. These things have 8 armor. Deals 2 points of damage to him. Since he won, he'll push out of combat, and then he is going to run 7 inches over here. And then over to Errooo's soldier phase. They're going to go ahead and have the sentry fire his shotgun at that harvest tick. It's a +2 shoot against +1 defense, and the shot wins with a 17 against 5. And with +1 damage against 16 armor, that only deals 2 points of damage, leaving him at 2 health, but he is wounded. And then they're going to have this, I guess he'll try to move, which will snap this thing into combat, and then they'll have this Repairbot run over to attack. So he's a +2 with support against -1. But the spider rolls an 18, so he gets a total of 17 against 5. And that ends up dealing 9 points of damage to the Repairbot, and it goes down. Then this guide knows when it's time to leave. He's going to run off the table. And that will bring us to the creature phase. And that thing is going to go ahead and attack the burner, +8 against +3, and wins with a 16 to a 9 with +2 damage. Deals 7 points of damage to him, bringing him down to 7 health remaining. And then up front to this harvest tick, it'll attack -1 against +3, and the sentry ends up winning with an 18 against 16, which deals 2 damage, which is just enough to splatter this thing into the ground. And then for initiative for the next round, Erroo's team has won it again with a 14 against a 3, and that 3 allows another harvest tick to enter the board, and Smada will put it here again to try to take down that sentry. And then over here, Blinky's team is going to activate. He'll go ahead and activate with the striker and the sniper. He'll start with having the sniper move 6 inches down here. Only one action because he's still wounded. And then the striker is going to move over here. And Blinky will just double move down there next to him. Then to Erroo's soldier phase, the sentry will fire his shotgun +2 against +1, but misses with a 15 against 17, and he'll just stand his ground and let the harvest tick run into combat with him. And then they'll once again have the burner do nothing down there, and then they're going to have their Pathfinder for Smada's team run off the board, securing this data loot. And then to the creature phase, the Centaur down here will attack +8 against +3, and rolls the first critical hit of the game. So 28 against a 20. That takes down this burner very easily. And then it will randomly move 6 inches off over here. And then going up here to this harvest tick, it will move into combat and attack, +1 against +3. And it rolls just a 1, and the sentry rolls a 2. So this no damage is dealt, but the sentry can push him out of combat far enough that actually he'll push himself out of combat, so he's closer to this edge. And then moving to the next round for initiative, Samana's team won with a 19 against a 5. That does allow Erroo's team to place another harvest tick, but at this point they just want to wrap up the game. So as soon as Blinky activates, he would just run off the board, securing this loot, and with no loot left on the table, the game will end there. So there are a lot of survival rolls to make here after this game. First off, any guides that fall in combat don't make survival rolls. Instead, the crew just has to pay an extra 60 credits for their injuries. We'll start out here with Captain Smada, see how he's doing. And he rolled a dead result. So a couple things with that is that a captain gets to add a +1 to their roll result if they want, but that will still leave a dead result. And also they have an advanced medical suite, which lets them do a reroll on a survival roll, but that's only for a soldier, so it does not apply to captains or first mates. Now without Smada on their team, the crew kind of loses their purpose, as the whole point of them coming after the Prospector is so that Smada can gain some notoriety in his crime family. And also, with a new captain, you can promote your first mate to that position. However, they're only supposed to do it if they're at least level 10. Otherwise, you're supposed to scrap the team and start over. And that would be kind of a real bummer with the Last Prospector, with all of the investigation points and faction standings they've been building up. So instead, I'm just going to give him 2 permanent injuries so he can stay in the campaign for narrative purposes. And it works out well because his permanent injuries came at the hand of Errooo shooting him. So he'll definitely be wanting to get some revenge. And his permanent injuries are a smashed leg, which is going to give him a -1 move penalty, which I'll point out in Frostgrave 2nd edition, This actually causes a -2 move penalty, so it's nice it's only a -1 in Stargrave. And the other is a lingering injury, which makes them have to pay 30 credits before each battle or else suffer -3 health for that game. And for the rest of their team, their Shangri-La is fine, their medic is dead, and they will use their one reroll from their advanced medical suite. He'll try to heal himself, I guess, and he's fine with the 19. We'll go with the sentry. He is dead, and then their runner, which doesn't really matter, he's badly wounded, and their bruiser is fine. Moving over to Erroo's team, starting with Errooo, he gets a 7. And that's really unfortunate. That's a close call. He loses all of his gear, which means he loses his rapid fire of +1 damage. For Ruga, he is fine. Then we'll go with the burner. He's badly wounded. Their striker, dead. Their trooper, fine. Their codebreaker, he is dead, along with the jetpack he's carrying. Their little Repairbot that doesn't really matter, he's dead. He comes back for free, and the bruiser, he's fine. For faction bonuses, since Smada's team recovered the central data loot, they can share that information they found with Hanera to increase their faction standing with them by +2. And also, since they were contacted by the Darksiders to try to take down that Centizar, they gain a +1 faction standing with the Darksiders for making any kind of attack. Their medic made one futile attack roll against it, so that gives them a bonus. If it was reduced to 0 health, they'd get another. And the other team gets no bonuses unless the Centizar was killed, which it wasn't, so nothing for Erroo's team. And with those increases, nothing new happens as far as bonuses the teams get with their faction standings. For after-game powers, Smada using investments on an 11, failure, haggle on an 11, also fails. For Blinky, he'll try the information broker on a 14, fails, and the treasure seeker on a 14, that also fails. For experience points, only one harvest tick was killed, so that's just the normal 5 experience points for Erroo's team for that. And Errooo did start within 6 inches of the Centizar on one of his activations, so get some bonus experience there. But nobody took down the Centizar, so no experience for that. And with Erroo's team, even though he and Ruga only used 3 powers successfully, they still gained 215 experience. And for Smada's team, they only gained 180 experience points. And combined with the experience points Erroo's team already had, he bumped up to level 23 to lower the activation number of Armoury to 11, so that maybe they can finally successfully use that power next game. And Ruga bumped up to level 6 and lowered the activation number for his new Wall of Force power to try to use that more often. And then that left them with 70 experience points remaining. And since Captain Smada didn't have any experience points saved up when they started this battle, he was able to gain just 1 level, and he lowered the activation number of investments down to 10, because after 2 games of neither he nor Blinky being able to succeed on any after-game powers, they really want to be able to do that, especially with the lingering injuries that are going to be costing them 30 credits each battle, and they've got 80 experience points saved up now. For Erroo's loot that he found, and this is a secret, and this is an alien artifact, which is an enhanced energy shield, which is useless if they don't have the energy shield power, so they'll sell that for 250, and then with all their money, to replace these 2 fallen soldiers, they're going to hire a sniper, and they'll give the grapple gun from the trooper to him, and then they're going to go ahead and hire on Daughter Ryla as a gunslinger, which is a specialist soldier found in the Quarantine 37 supplement, which is similar to a sniper, only she's carrying 2 pistols. She deals +1 damage, and if she ever rolls a 1, only one of her pistols will jam, so she can still fire one of her pistols. And they'll hang on to their secret to use next battle, and they'll have 80 credits left over to probably spend on combat armor next battle. For Captain Smada's loot tokens, he finds information worth 20, an advanced weapon, which is a shotgun of +1 shoot, and trade goods worth 300 credits. So they'll sell their information for 200, they'll sell their trade goods for 300, plus they get a bonus 20% for having external cargo pods and another 20% bonus for their faction standing with the Freeholders League, giving them an extra 120 credits. They'll take their advanced shotgun and give that to their sniper in place of his carbine, so he'll have +4 shoot now. And then with all the money they have purchased an extra quarters for their ship, which lets them have an extra specialist soldier. They will get rid of their dead and wounded figures there, and instead they'll hire on a trophy taker, which is a specialist from the Quarantine 37 book that gets extra attack bonuses when attacking uncontrolled creatures. And they're also going to take just a lowly hacker to fill one of their regular soldier slots. And since he had a bunch of money to start with, he's got 390 credits left over to buy some more ship grades next battle. The crew of the Iron Golem gained 2 investigation points, bringing their total to 17, and the crew of the Negator gained 3 plus an additional 1 for their standing with the Darksiders faction, for a total of also 17. And since Smada's team collected more investigation points during the battle, they'll choose the next scenario, which will be the Infestation battle, where they'll be fighting off a whole bunch of bugs. And you can make sure you won't miss that battle by subscribing and hitting the notification bell. And feel free to check out some of the other content on my channel. I'm Alan with Bricks and Blocks Gaming. Thanks for watching and play well.